On a September morning in 2008, federal agents swarmed the Minnetonka headquarters of Pedders Group Worldwide. Investigators weren't looking for legitimate business. They were uncovering a scheme that had already stolen over $2 billion. A fraud run by Thomas Joseph Pedders himself. Thomas Pedders, born in 1957, built this operation on fake purchase orders. He told investors he was buying electronics from suppliers, then selling them to big box stores. Lenders saw these fake orders as collateral, wiring millions. But the goods never existed. The money simply paid off earlier investors, keeping the illusion alive until the entire structure collapsed. The early hustle. In 1973, a teenager in St. Cloud, Minnesota, was already building his first company. Thomas Joseph Pedders launched Ear Electronics while still in high school. It was a mail-order stereo business aimed at college students. This wasn't just a hobby. He left college after a single semester to pursue his business career. Pedders saw opportunity everywhere. Here's what happened. In the early 1980s, he worked as a regional manager for an electronics store chain in Colorado. When that company went bankrupt, Pedders didn't just move on. He bought 5 of its former locations in Colorado and Kansas. This early success built a deep confidence. It blurred the lines between pure ambition and high-stakes risk. Every business challenge for Pedders became a chance to expand. He wasn't just a businessman. He was an accumulator, constantly seeking more. This aggressive approach would soon define his path, setting the stage for much larger ventures. Building a paper empire. In 1988, Thomas Pedders returned to Minnesota, a state he called home. He founded Amicus Trading, a wholesale brokerage, marking his next step in business. By 1995, Pedders launched Pedders Warehouse Direct, using physical stores in Minnetonka and across Minnesota. He moved discounted merchandise from bankrupt companies. 3 years later, in 1998, Pedders saw the internet's potential. He shifted his sales strategy online with redtag.com. By 2000, he sold his physical Pedders Warehouse Direct stores. His focus narrowed to the digital world. This strategic pivot laid the groundwork for his growing paper empire. Here's the thing. Pedders understood the power of brand recognition. In 2001, he teamed up with direct mail merchandise company Fingerhut Companies, Inc. to start a new online store, redtagbiz.com. This site, now linked with the reputable Fingerhut name, reportedly reached annual sales of $1 billion at one point. This figure gave the impression of massive scale and legitimate activity. Imagine a company that, in just a few years, appears to be moving $1 billion in goods annually. To any potential investor, Pedders was building a verifiable retail powerhouse. He projected success and stability. Then a critical opportunity arose. Federated Department Stores, the owner of Fingerhut, decided to sell or close the company. This was the very brand Pedders had used to boost redtagbiz.com's credibility. Pedders, sensing the moment, teamed with former Fingerhut chairman Ted Deichel once more. In June 2002, they bought Fingerhut. This acquisition included the brand name, its valuable customer list, and its physical infrastructure. These facilities span St. Cloud, Minnetonka, and Plymouth in Minnesota, plus locations in Tennessee. The acquisition was highly strategic. Deichel took charge of Fingerhut Direct Marketing Incorporated, focusing on its famous catalogs. Petters, meanwhile, operated Fingerhut Fulfillment. This part of the business managed the crucial distribution center in St. Cloud. This arrangement gave Petters direct control over the logistics that underpin a large retail operation. It also gave him access to Fingerhut's established name and operational capacity. In April 2003, the Petters Group continued its expansion. It purchased Ubid, another online auction platform. That same month, Fingerhut Direct Incorporated secured a substantial $100 million line of credit. This financing was specifically for inventory and receivables. Each move added another layer of legitimacy to Petters' growing portfolio. The facade became more convincing with every new venture. Each reported sale, each prominent brand, each new line of credit added significant weight to his carefully constructed illusion. Petters was not just expanding, he was meticulously building a stage. This stage, grand and seemingly solid, was designed to obscure what was truly happening behind the scenes. It would soon host a different kind of transaction. The Fictional Transactions. Behind Petters' growing empire, a different kind of engine ran. You might picture complex algorithms or obscure financial products. But Tom Petters' scheme relied on something far more basic. He created investment funds like Arrowhead and Lancelot. Between 1998 and 2008, these funds raised over $4 billion. Here's how it looked to an investor. Petters' company presented fake retail orders. These orders claimed sales of electronics to big box retailers. The orders served as collateral. Investors put money into Petters' funds, believing they were financing real transactions. They received official-looking purchase orders and promissory notes. This created the illusion of a fast-moving, high-volume trading business. But there were no electronics. There were no actual sales to stores. The purchase orders were entirely fake. Every single document was a lie. As more investors came in, their new money simply paid off older loans. It was like building a skyscraper on a foundation of air. The sheer scale, billions of dollars, made the lie seem impossible. Too big to be simple. Yet this entire system rested on one repeated deception. You were shown a document for a sale that never happened. Every time you invested, you bought into another imaginary transaction, generating phantom profits. This paper wealth, however, had to go somewhere. It funded very real purchases. The illusion of growth. In January 2005, Petters Group Worldwide purchased the Polaroid brand for $426 million. The following year, in 2006, the company acquired Sun Country Airlines. These weren't small, unknown businesses. They were household names. Each acquisition added a powerful veneer of legitimacy to Thomas Petters' growing empire. Money from the fabricated transactions now flowed into these tangible, well-known assets. Consider an investor watching these moves. You'd see a company with a strong, visible track record of successful acquisitions. They were buying established, recognized brands. This created a powerful illusion of strength and genuine business activity. Petters Group worldwide became a diverse holding company. By 2007, it claimed $2.3 billion in revenue. It employed 3,200 people. The company held investments or full ownership in 60 companies, actively managing 20 of them. Offices spanned North America, South America, Asia, and Europe. This looked like aggressive, genuine growth. It suggested a healthy, expanding business, not one built on a fragile foundation of lies. The acquisition of familiar companies made it seem impossible that anything was amiss. The rapid, high-profile expansion served two critical purposes. It efficiently burned through the illicit funds from the Ponzi scheme, moving billions of dollars into real-world assets. More importantly, it projected stability and undeniable success to the outside world, covering the empty claims of his underlying fraud. This made new investors comfortable putting their money in, blinded by the brand names. The sheer scale convinced many that such widespread operations must be legitimate. This expansion was more than just growth. It was a carefully constructed distraction, allowing the fraud to continue unchecked. What you think is the full story here isn't. The pressure inside Petters' operations was building. The Inside Unraveling. By 2008, the pressure on some insiders became too much. Deanna Coleman, a vice president of operations for Petters Company, walked into federal authorities' offices. She confessed everything. The government had not known about the scheme until her confession. Coleman offered to help federal authorities investigate. She then wore a hidden microphone, secretly recording conversations with Petters and others involved in the fraud. Petters, born in 1957, repeatedly admitted to the scheme on these tapes. Another insider, Robert Dean White, also confessed. He admitted creating false bank statements and other documents. These were used to trick investors into believing the sales were real. On September 24, 2008, federal investigators raided Petters' headquarters. In Minnetonka, they searched his Wayzata home. Imagine the sudden, undeniable reality of federal agents at your door. Documents released by the FBI confirmed they sought evidence of a scheme to fund a company based on tens of millions in purchases that never happened. These internal confessions cracked the entire operation open. Even the most tightly controlled schemes unravel when the people running them can no longer bear the weight of the lies. The full truth of the fraud was about to come to light. The Reckoning. In 2009, a jury delivered its verdict. They found Tom Petters guilty of numerous federal crimes. These included mail fraud. This wasn't some minor charge. It was a sweeping indictment of his entire operation. He received a 50-year federal prison term. 50 years! That's how long the court decided he would pay for the deception. Consider the sheer weight of that judgment. It wasn't just Petters who faced consequences. Others involved in the scheme also face charges. The fallout spread wide. This vast legal process, spanning years, aimed to undo the damage. The final reckoning for Thomas Joseph Petters was stark and absolute. It proved the legal system, though slow, eventually catches up to even the most elaborate financial trickery. The illusion Thomas Joseph Petters created was one of vast, profitable commerce. He didn't just build a business. He constructed an entire reality from nothing but fabricated documents. Fake purchase orders for electronic goods were the engine. They convinced lenders to wire billions of dollars to two suppliers, who then passed the money on to Petters' own companies. This was a cycle that demanded constant, fresh money to keep the old debts at bay, paying off earlier loans with funds from newer ones. This elaborate financial house of cards, built on a single, simple lie, stood for years, growing larger and more complex. But its undoing came not from external auditors, but from within. Insiders, burdened by the deception, finally brought the truth to federal agents. Their testimony and the recorded conversations they provided pulled down the entire fabricated structure. Thomas Joseph Petters, once a name synonymous with acquisition and expansion, ended up in a federal prison. His scheme shows how a convincing front, built on visible brands and a flurry of activity, can effectively hide the absence of real underlying operations. It relied on a simple, repeated lie at its core. The merchandise deals were real. Rapid, high-profile expansion can indeed be a sign of genuine success. Or it can be a way to burn through illicit funds while projecting stability, needing ever more cash to survive. What signs might you look for to recognize when a seemingly legitimate business, with all its impressive paperwork and rapid growth, is built on an unsustainable foundation of phantom deals? The next case reveals how a well-placed lie can corrupt an entire industry. Subscribe so you'll know the full story.